Here it is, guys. The new project car, the new car replacing Macaw. I haven't come up with a good name, but I think Macaw 2.0. This is it. 1998 e36 M3. Original color is silver, as you can tell by the mirrors. We'll go over the mirrors in a second, but it is wrapped once again in matte charcoal gray. The Subaru that I had was wrapped in matte dark gray. This is basically the same. The only difference I can tell is it's a little more flaky. But yeah, here it is, guys. Please forgive me. I am not a BMW expert quite yet. I am still learning. I'm still learning all the lingo and everything, so I'll do my best to explain all the parts. But if you guys are going to stay for the build, you'll see me progress, knowing this car, knowing what things are called. I bought this car from the guy next door to Adam's shop, and there's already a ton of parts on here, so it's hard for me to learn a new chassis, learn the new parts, as well as learning what is already on the car and going from there. So without further ado, I guess we should start with the main components. It's about 198,000 miles on the chassis, and then the motor has a rebuilt top end, so X miles of number of miles. The car has stock wheels. I'll throw a clip at the very end, taking them off and putting on the putting on the Arc 8s. But this is a non-staggered setup, so that way no understeer. But starting with the exterior of the car, not really much. Fog light delete or brake ducts and everything. You got the M logo. I don't really know what you call that. They're stickers. You have on the roof that's wrapped just due because it would be super hard to wrap around it. There's a carbon fiber sunroof delete. It wasn't in the very best condition, so I am fine covering that up. You have a replica LTW wing. We'll see what I want to do with that or replace it. I'm missing the badges because the back one was completely worn. I bought a new one off Amazon as well as an M3 badge. And that basically does it for the exterior of the car. Now if we move on to the inside, you have an auto power half cage, just like my Subaru. No rear seats. I am staying in prepped class, so I need my full interior on the front. But you have the renown, however you want to say it, I'm not exactly sure, steering wheel. I put the two seats that were in the Subaru into the BMW now. I need to order the Beamer World aluminum floor plates because I sit a little far back more than I would like. You have an IRP short throw shifter, which I really love. You have an oil pressure gauge, an oil temp gauge, and a water temp gauge. And then on the cluster itself, the coolant gauge is tapped into the head gasket area, and then the water temp gauge is tapped into the radiator. So monitoring both those things. Of course, you have a fire extinguisher. And yeah, there's some things I want to do for the interior, but for now I'm keeping it as it is. Definitely some things in the future I want to upgrade. Take it slow. This car has a ton of chassis stuff already, so it has all OEM bushings still, which is something I need to upgrade in the future. But we have Zimmerman brake rotors and Pagid RS44 brake pads, so those are track pads. Ground control coilovers, and then just today I bought an X brace that I was going to put on, and then I realized this car already has an X brace. So please forgive me. I am going to pull out my notes so I can read you guys exactly what is on the car. It has the M50 manifold, so it increases airflow about 30%. And then I'm tuned by the same guy that Rodell's tuned by. His name is Eric. We have the Afe Intake, which is a freaking behemoth. I have a new intake actually in my passenger seat. I went to measure this, or Sky measured it because the car is getting wrapped, and he said it's 4.5 inches across. That's massive, but then of course it tapers down really tight right there, but that's a massive intake. Alright, so I'm voice recording because the static got pretty bad, but we have an upgraded water pump. I need to upgrade my power steering pump. There is a Mishimoto radiator. You guys know how I feel about Mishimoto, so I may replace it in the future. But the guy tracking it before me said he's had no issues with cooling. We have an Afe intake filter, and that's basically it for the motor. There's a secondary airbox delete. Basically, the big block of this car is suspension. We have the ground control coilovers and race caster plates. This Friday I have an alignment with Elite Performance, and I definitely want to dial in alignment. I want about -3 in the front and -2.5 in the rear. Continuing on with suspension, there's the tuner, rear low control arm, a rear strut brace, engine mount, trans mount that's about to go in. There's an X brace, like I said. I also just bought donut strut rings for the strut tower that cracks a lot, and Elite Performance is going to install them for me. I also ordered an E-clutch fan, or an E-fan, which is going to replace the one we're looking at right here. And there's a manual controller to turn it on and off. And basically Rodell runs it, and a lot of people on track run it, and they highly recommend it to keep temps down. So now we're going to move on to the trunk, and here I'm going to show you there's 2 plates that I need to order. Rome gave them to me, but I need to actually get them welded in. The rear strut, just like the front, has an issue to crack. Luckily there's the rear strut tower, which will help a little, but for the most part I definitely need to get the rear strut plates welded on to make sure nothing cracks, as if it cracks it's going to be more expensive to replace. Next up we have the rear diff, which is the Speed GarageWorks 3.72 two-way 40% lockout. So basically at 80 miles per hour on the freeway, I'm sitting at 4,000 RPM. I definitely have more mid-range torque compared to Rodell, who has more top end. So between 2,500 and maybe like 6,500, I have a lot of big pickup. So in some places where Rodell might need to go into second gear on his rear diff, I'll be able to stay in third gear, which hopefully should help, especially with those tight turns. I also have just an axle back on this car, which actually sounds really good. It's the Stromong. I'm not exactly how sure you say it. It's a German name. These are going to be hard to learn, but it's a really good axle back, and I think for this car I'm going to keep it low key and quiet, especially if I can pass the Laguna sound. Now we're going to move on to the wheel setup. It's Apex Arc 8s 17x9s, both ET42 with a 255/40/17 tire, and I love how cheap 17-inch tires are compared to 18s. Funny story, I bought these Apex wheels with a brand new set basically of Hoosier R7s. I bought a brand new set of NT01s, and then I realized I need to stay in prep class, so I picked up these used Hankook RS4s off a guy. So now I basically have a ton of tires sitting at home. Like I said, I want to compete in prep class. The guys I'm going up against, I think the fastest dude that ran there ran a 217-ish, I think, in a Ford Focus ST, which I definitely think I can best, even though this will be a new platform, but we will see. But yeah, I'm going to definitely be showing you guys builds of this. Should be really fun. There's definitely lots of things I can do, unlike the Subaru, which I kind of ran out of things. There's lots of little things I can do on this car. I have to custom make the APR mirrors, so that's why these aren't wrapped. These would have been $200 each to wrap, but I bought the APRs for a discounted price, cheaper than what these two would have been. I just need to make a custom bracket. Yeah, man, this is the car, and I just absolutely love it. Yeah, guys, I think that's about it. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask down below, and I'm going to take some photos of this car. Take care, guys.